Hey Pavel, how are you doing?
Oh man, I'm fine. Just back from work.
Good. How was your work day?
Oh, so hard.
Long
As
day,
as always, yeah, so busy.
as always. Brilliant. What are you doing the rest of the night?
Um, as always, when I back home from work, I'm having dinner with my family and chilling something like in chats or watching movies, something like that, playing with my daughter and no more.
Brilliant. Yeah, that sounds like a good time.
Yes, really. Maybe let's start.
Sure, yeah, whenever you're ready. Let's jump into it. Thank you for doing this, by the way. This is a really cool opportunity to really kind of talk about this project that we're so excited about.
Thanks for your feedback. Okay, maybe let's start from introducing yourself. What's your role in Quai Network and how did you join to the team?
Sure. So my name is Clark, and I am the graphic designer at Quai Network. And I actually joined because I had some really good friends that were a part of the Quai team, kind of really early on, and they were always talking about it. So I knew a little bit about it, but it wasn't until right before we began, or I guess right after the Bronze Age testnet, they reached out to me looking for a graphic actually to release Bronze Age testnet. They texted me about 24 hours before Bronze Age was supposed to release, and they said, "Hey, we need an image for this. Is there any way that you could do this?" And so I did that, and then right after Bronze Age, they reached out to me and asked me to be a part of their team full time. So it's been a lot of fun ever since, and I'm really excited that I'm able to be a part of it.
It's really cool. But I ask you this question because I don't remember you during the Bronze Age. That's why it was
Mm-mm.
so interesting for me, and I think for our listeners. As you know, uh, I like arts as you,
Absolutely.
but my art is not the same way as you. I prefer traditional arts.
Well, that's actually so my background is actually traditional art. So I do a lot of drawing and I used to paint a lot. I need to get back to it, but that is kind of where my background is. So seeing your traditional art is incredible, and I'm really able to uh, appreciate how talented you are in the work that you do.
Okay, thank you. But
Of
I think
course.
I think I want to now I want to ask you questions to introduce you to our listeners, our community, yes, and other newcomers who will watch this movie. Let's. I want to ask you: digital art is beyond our perception. Is it difficult to realize what is behind all this when art in usual sense is quite real painting, sculptures, and architectural solutions? What is digital art? What opportunities does an artist have when creating something new digitally? How did you find yourself in it?
Mm. Yeah, so let me kind of start with how I found myself in digital art because that is kind of my kind of introduction to the art world itself. But I actually went to school to study architecture, and I'm actually wrapping up my degree. You can see my robes up here. I'm in my college apartment right now, so I'll graduate this December with a degree of architecture. Um, and the education process really focuses on digital design purely because it is the most efficient way to convey your idea. It's a very simple, which I guess I would say it's a very complex way of displaying your idea, but it's a very efficient way to do a very complex drawing. So you're able to replicate all these details. You're able to replicate every kind of little nitty gritty bit that is so difficult to do by hand, maybe every single time, like you might do in graffiti if you had to write the same cue over and over. it would be very difficult, but we're able to kind of take the PNG of it and kind of replicate it over and over across every single image. So it's it really is about efficiency and effectiveness of conveying what that art is meant to do. So whether you're able to do that in a physical painting or if you're able to do that in a digital work, I think they're both successful processes if it conveys the story.
Thanks for your answer. Next question, I want to ask you, where does art begin for you? But you answered it.
A little bit, a little bit. Yeah, so art for me began whenever I was in about third grade. Actually, I was in an art class with Judy, who actually you're very familiar with. He's a part of the Quai team. He got me into an art class that I took ever since I was in the third grade until about 12th or I guess 10th grade or so. But so I do have a traditional art background where I learned in a studio growing up, learning how to paint and draw in a very traditional sense. So that did help the transition into the digital art world much easier.
Oh, I can tell you, but I can tell you one thing that digital art for me it's so difficult. I can't understand how I can do it. And uh, let me say one thing: when when I was a child, when I was 6 years old, I went to art school. My mom, my mom sent me to see, and I went to classes, paint something, but it's not, it's not, I didn't be so talented, yes, and it's not so easy for me. But later, maybe you know this game on the computer, getting up.
What is it called? I'll Google it right now. It's called Getting Up.
Yes, getting up.
Interesting. What is it? Explain it to me.
It's a game when one man painting
Mm,
graffiti on the walls, on the trains, in other. I know. I remembered his name. Train. Mark Echo getting up.
wow. Yeah, so you're able to kind of run around the cities and
Yes,
paint. Brilliant.
tagging, I think, yes. And from that moment, I with my friends from school, we buy markers and go to paint on the
Yeah.
walls.
Yeah, make art anywhere. I think as long as that you're making art, I think that's what's important and being able to enjoy that joy anywhere, whether it's in a professional setting or with just markers on in the bathroom stalls, I think it's really special that you're able to fully dive into that and be a part of the community.
Yes, and one of the most important thing, it's a process. Enjoy this process, not fin not result process. For example, when I painted something, I'm enjoying process with my friends always. Maybe if it be 1 hour or 5 hours, it's I love this process because when you speaking with your friends, you maybe smoking weed, maybe something there who
Sure, whatever you choose to do.
yes,
Absolutely.
it's really
Yeah.
cool.
No, I think that's an important lesson, and I'm pleased that you were able to learn it, though, that if you aren't able to enjoy the process, you're never going to have any cool art, because if you can't be happy about spending 20, 30 hours on a painting or something, then you aren't going to have a great painting, right?
Yes, I agree.
Exactly.
And maybe can you tell us about your favorite artists of today and the past? How they attract you? Compare what has changed over time and what are the advantages of new approaches to art?
Yeah. Okay, let's break it down. So who are your favorite artists? Do you have any favorite artists at the moment?
I can't say so because I'd like simple graffiti. No more. I check people who painting so well, and
Mm. Have you seen work by Jean Basquiat? Jean-Michel Basquiat? Basquiat. Gosh. I'll send you some of his work, but it's very sketchy style. I think you might find it interesting.
can you send me some and I put it in video?
Sure, I'll send you his name over Discord right now. Yeah, I think for me, starting on kind of the classical artists that I really do enjoy is I find that I'm most attracted to artwork that's very impressionist, similar to the work of Claude Monet, and the way that he is able to kind of imply this sense of detail and this conveying passion in such simple forms. And there's other works, of course. You see Van Gogh, you see oh gosh, I can't think of any artists now that we start talking about it, but I should have wrote some down before we started. But artists that focus more on the emotion rather than the total subject is always what I seem to find interesting. So more abstracted work is more what I look towards. So right now in kind of contemporary work, it's been interesting to see kind of Web3 artists develop this space and see how they kind of take on a new approach to art, because it is ever evolving, and this new idea of an NFT marketplace is a new concept, really, to be able to share art this easily, and it's not restricted to a certain class. It's not restricted to only the people that can afford art, but it really is able to be consumed by a wider audience now, and I think that's really special. So it is really important to kind of focus on what the Web3 artists are doing. So people like I really like Tio. I can send you his work that we can link in there as well. But he's on Twitter and he's been doing a lot of community work that has been incredible. Artists like Mote, May. I should create a post linking all of my favorite artists that we can post with the video or maybe in the comments. But a lot of their work and their focus on kind of involving the community and creating a discussion in the art world is something that I think can be even more powerful than the art itself.
And can you tell me what do you feel when you create something new?
Hmm. Yeah, are we talking about kind of personal projects or more for Quai? What would you like to focus on for that?
Let's focus on Quai.
Quai?
Yeah.
Sure. Well, Quai is a really interesting approach to kind of graphics because we are really intent on creating a kind of evergreen brand, a brand that will be able to grow over time, and not only will the brand be able to grow, but that Quai itself will be able to grow with this brand, you know? So it is also focused on generating growth, where we're focused on excitement. We're trying to um, create a brand that you want to be a part of. And so creating every single image is not only really exciting, but it is a reflection process that you're really reflecting on how we're doing this and if we're doing it successfully. So a lot of our projects we have had to, because everyone's learning, we're all learning. I'm learning as a designer. So a lot of these conversations are going back and saying, how can we do this better? So I think a part of the process is learning, and I think that's the most fun right now for me.
Thanks for your answer. And one more question about it. What inspires you when you create? What films, music, and literature? Perhaps reality gives you ideas for the new artwork itself.
Yeah, I think the biggest one, it has to be nature. And I think broader than nature, you could even just talk about in general this concept of space and relationship, right? Because everything is about a relationship to one another. If you look at the world, whenever you're standing on Pluto, it looks like a tiny little speck, but to us, it's so massive. So this relationship between these two objects is what really creates that power, you know? So the idea of relationship, whether it's between people or it's in nature or it's between the built environment to who we are, whatever you call this relationship, whether it's your relationship to your emotions, the way that we convey this in art is what's most inspiring. But if you want to talk about kind of like specific movies or pictures, Blade Runner 2049 is a really cool example. Are you familiar with it? I'll send you the name. But this movie we talk a lot about because they really perfect the kind of cinematic gradient, color, and these relationship between these darks and these lights, and the way that they contrast the blues and the greens, and everything. They do it so elegantly and simply that we try to use that as part of our inspiration whenever we're branding Quai, but we do try to take a new approach to that.
Thank you, Clark. And may I add from myself one thing about nature paints or nature arts? Yes, I'd like it because everyone sees their own meaning in art. For example, one picture we may understand different. You may see something more. I may see something less, but in general we may see different ways, yes, different ways of this art, and it's really cool. For example, because if you paint graffiti, yes, it's all people understand it the same. Yes, it's
Mm,
graffiti like marketing or something like that, and no more. Of course, lots of graffiti in the street in so important places. Yes, when you do it, it may be risky for you, and adrenaline is so high in these
mhm.
moments, and you your enjoy process much bigger because adrenaline.
Right, exactly. Well, that's something that you were telling me about, the adrenaline of painting. It just seems so exhilarating because usually when I paint, I want to have the steadiest hand possible, right? Doing the tiny little details. But whenever you're trying to be so quick and fast and rush, it's so cool. And to see it turn out as beautiful as it was is so cool.
I think one day we may try to do it together on the street.
I think so. Well, I've seen have you seen the the painting with the VR and the metaverse? Have you started to see any of that, doing the graffiti with the VR headset? I've seen a lot of great work and how people practice through this, but I'm sure it can't compare to trying to run and hide at 4 a.m. while you paint.
I never tried to painting in 3D.
Yeah. It could be cool.
Yes, I really believe I really believe in it. That we try. And okay, if you look at your Twitter, you like modern style, and your new digital painting is a harmonious combination of nature and modernity. Tell us a little bit about your style and philosophy you put into it. I think you answered this question before, but maybe can you add something?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think whenever it comes to terms to my style, I am entirely focused on learning right now. I don't think that I have anything too defining yet. I do like to focus on kind of how light plays in an image and the balance between geometry and nature. But I think for me, the biggest part of it is the process. Very similar to you, I just enjoy doing it. It's uh, what I like to spend my time doing. So I'm very lucky to have found a job where I can do this, first of all. But whenever it comes to my personal work, similar to you, how this is just what I enjoy. It makes me happy doing it, and there's nothing else that can kind of compare to that. So it really is just kind of part of the process, and we're figuring it out as we go.
It's cool. Thanks for your answer. And
Sure.
uh, tell us what are the prospects for the development of contemporary artists and how they can be promoted.
Yeah, I think well we touched on it a little bit when just talking about how there's never been this ability. There's just such a wide spread amount of art out there, and it's so hard not to consume art now versus in the past it might have been difficult, or you may not have been in a position where you were able to view art, but now everybody has this potential and opportunity to kind of explore and dive into this world. So I think it really is opening up this kind of brand new world that we're only dipping our toes in so far. So I mean, I don't think anyone knows exactly where it's going, but I'm excited to be a part of it, and hopefully, it'll take us along that ride too, right? We'll be able to be a part of this movement that's growing.
Okay, I understand you. And in conclusion, maybe can you get some advices to our community, maybe who afraid to create something new, maybe uh, who don't know what he can do, how he can surprise team or world. What's your opinion? What's your advice?
Sure. Well, I think one thing that's interesting that I've started to uncover recently, because I've been asking kind of the same questions on how to get more involved, how to just because you look at some artists who are just constantly creating, and it's so intimidating watching them kind of put out work every single day, and while they're still doing their full-time job and everything. So it really is intimidating. I think part of understanding that every artist is kind of going through the same exact process. There's so many people that it looks like they have it together that you really deep dive and you go to their Patreon, you really explore kind of who they are. And every single one of them talk about how difficult it is to really get going and hit the ground running. So I think understanding that there is a learning curve there, and just trying not to be too intimidated by it and taking it kind of one step at a time is really the most important part. What helped you go out and create your first graffiti piece?
I think for me, mm, maybe like my advice, yes, for everybody, don't afraid to create something new. If, for example, you must try to do it. If it looks like bad or you don't like it or people don't like it, no worries. You may try later another thing because if you do nothing, it's not the best way. Only with mistakes we can uh, we can make a big steps in future.
Exactly. Yeah, well, beautifully said. Thank you.
I think I want to tell you thanks for the interview. It was so interesting, and I believe that it's so useful not only for me, for our listeners. Thank you. Bye bye.
Sure, bye. Thank you for doing this, Pavel.